I don't always get sucked into internet food trends, but sometimes I just can't help myself. All over my algorithm has been this one dish, this Korean salt bread. People are lining up like crazy in Seoul to try this baked good. It strikes me as a balance between a brioche roll in the form factor of a croissant, and I really, really want to eat it. It's packed with salt and butter and just looks so delicious. So let me show you how to get that same flavor at home. Oh my God, these are so good. There are gonna be a few key things we need to get right if we want that Korean bakery flavor for the salt bread. First, we're gonna make a Tangzhong, which is this basically roux combination of flour and water instead of flour and fat that helps hydrate the dough. It keeps it moist, it keeps it tender, and it keeps it really, really light. One of the things that I've identified as an important thing in this bread is a crispy, crunchy outside, this really deep brown crust, but a really soft, tender interior, and a Tangzhong is gonna help us do that. It's used a lot in like Japanese milk bread, which this bread is actually sort of based on a Japanese salt bread. So let's start on the Tangzhong first. Just goes 20 grams of bread flour. That was almost perfect. And 100 mils or 100 grams of water. So I'm just gonna add a little bit in here to make a paste first. Just trying to get the lumps out where I can. The less lumpy it is now, the less lumpy it's gonna be later. Let's take this over to the stove. This I'm just gonna cook over medium-low until it begins to really thicken. Now there are lots of ways to add moisture to doughs. This is just one of them. Things with a lot of fat usually help bring moisture. This is a good way of doing it without adding a ton of fat. Now, in our case, we are gonna add fat in the form of butter and some milk powder, but this is also gonna help. So once it's thick, we're gonna wanna get it out of the pan pretty quick. This level of thickness, we're gonna call it. This bowl has 350 grams of high strength bread flour, which is important when you want a dough that has a decent amount of gluten and a good gluten structure, enough to sort of hold itself together and give you a little bit of chew. This is cake flour, which basically does the exact opposite. So we've got bread flour providing the chew, think of like pizza dough or something of that sort, and then we've got cake flour providing tenderness. I need 100 grams of cake flour. Normally, you wouldn't want to measure into the other flour in case you get it wrong, like that. That was too much. To our flours, we're gonna add 30 grams of just white sugar, 6 grams of active dry yeast. It's gonna give a lot of good yeasty flavor and a lot of quick rise to this. To season this, we're gonna do salt in the dough, and we're gonna do salt on top as well. So this is about 10 grams of salt, which you'll see is a decent amount. So add that, 10 grams of salt. Now for the second secret ingredient that adds a lot of flavor and a lot of just richness is this milk powder. So this is about 30 grams of milk powder, essentially dried skim milk. That's really gonna help bring a lot of good depth of flavor to what is a pretty simple sort of brioche style dough. Before I add any liquid, just gonna make sure all of these dry ingredients are fully combined. I'm also gonna make sure to get a lot of it on the table. This is 200 mils of hot tap water, and this is our flour water Tangzhong. Pretty important to let this cool so you're not adding like hot flour into your dough. Before I get to mixing, the last thing I want is some softened butter, which I forgot to do earlier. 0.6 off. I'm insane at this. This is 30 grams of butter. That was about 6 intervals of 3 seconds. Now, for this dough, I'm just gonna start off with a spoon, try to make sure everything's as mixed as possible. There's about 20 more mils of water I'm gonna add. Once the spoon's done its work, you just gotta get in there with your hands. So at this stage, we're starting to get there. I'm gonna make a little well and add our butter into it. In the beginning, it's gonna feel like the butter is just gonna not mix in, but the more you knead it, the more the butter and the dough become a homogeneous unit. Just so it's easier to sort of knead, get it where I want it. I'm gonna put it out onto the board. But again, this could be in a bowl. This could be in a stand mixer. Feels pretty good, feels nice and, you know, soft, supple. You're aiming for like the texture of a nice butt. Here is about, you know, 10 to 12 minutes of kneading, and it looks really, really nice. We finally got gluten developed, and it's ready to rest. This is gonna proof till it's basically doubled in size. So that could take anywhere from 45 minutes if it's really warm to, 90 minutes if it's really cool out. So I'm just gonna cover this and let it go until it's got all the air that it needs. This dough is almost there. It's looking really nice. It's probably got like 10, 15 minutes left. This recipe is gonna make about 12 salt breads. So I want 12 little pieces of butter inside the bread. Cutting one stick of butter in half. I'll cut that half into 6 pieces. Some of these are gonna have a little more butter, some of these are gonna have a little less. That's fine. I don't feel the need to be perfect with this. I'm gonna store this in the fridge just so it stays nice and cold. This was about 60 minutes of proofing. You can see it's definitely doubled in size. The dough is really nice, decently springy. Smell-wise, it's really nice and yeasty and buttery and just smells good overall. Let's get this out. We'll go ahead and I'm just gonna put a little flour. Once you work dough like that for a while, it tends to like really tighten up and gets hard to roll. We're gonna cover this and then let it sit for like 15, 20 minutes or so. They kind of need to start as like a triangle. They're basically crescent rolls. So I'm gonna keep this part, trying to sort of triangle roll them out. And then this is gonna be, this spot up here is gonna be where the butter goes. And then we're gonna roll this sucker. Should end up with a beautiful, a little crescent roll situation. I'm taking and pinching this end with a rolling pin. I'm rolling this half for the base. As I continue to roll out, my left hand is pulling back. So there keeps being less and less dough, and that forms a little bit of a point. So you should end up with a pretty long triangle. And that's what allows you to put the butter in, and you roll the whole thing up towards you. These rolls are based on Seoul-ppang, which is Japanese sort of milk, shio meaning salt, pan meaning bread. Basically is the same translation in Korean. This is that basic same style, same recipe. It's interesting because bakeries in the US tend to, I think more than other countries, not focus on one thing. They usually get good at a lot of things. I think mastery of one thing, places in France that just sell baguettes, bakeries in Korea that just sell, salt bread until they're sold out. I think these are gonna taste like the best version of a Pillsbury croissant, a can where you crack the can on the side of a table and pops open and you roll out these croissants. This is pretty much a Korean version of those. I imagine this is gonna taste very nostalgic for me. These need probably another hour of resting. These need to double again. Once the air is in it, we'll end up with really large, terrible salt breads rather than like tiny little croissant rolls. So that's what we're aiming for. Just make sure they've got enough room to really expand and absorb air. So this is about 50 minutes later. They are basically doubled in size. They look really nice. Let me get the oven on 400 before these salt breads go in the oven. It's just a little egg wash and then some flaky salt on top. Whenever I make an egg wash, I just add a little water to thin it out, usually so I don't have to use more than one egg for this, but basically the fat in the yolk helps make a nice brown crust. These just a light coating. As the oven comes up to temperature, I'm gonna do one last thing. This is kind of a baker's secret. A lot of these baker's ovens have what they call like steam injectors, which, when the baked good goes into the oven, steam gets injected, and that steam that's in the oven helps give rise to the baked good. So you end up with a more puffy and light, tender crumb on the inside, while also getting a nice dark crust on the outside. So to mimic that, you just put a little water in here as the oven's getting up to temperature. Then you've just gotta be quick when you put the trays in the oven. You don't want all that steam escaping. Oven is hot and ready to go. These are gonna go in at 400 Fahrenheit for probably like 20 minutes or so, maybe 25, depending on how brown they look. Going in. This was 21 minutes, so I'm gonna take these a little further. I want them slightly browner. It smells like so much butter in here. Let's do one more minute. These ones were taken right out at golden. That's worth it. That looks so good. All the butter has poured out, created this like brown buttery bottom. Ooh, yeah, that looks good. If you've seen them online, these are a little bit closer to the color that you usually see. Let me give you the rundown because these are very, very exciting. They're so like buttery, tender. You can see the crumb. It's like nice and a little chewy, but for the most part, it's just very soft. And then this glazed bottom, this is what the whole cross section looks like. They have a really beautiful, tender dinner roll type texture. It's probably the best dinner roll type equivalent I've ever had. These are gorgeous. You get so much butter flavor and then that top crunchy salt. Nice crunch on the bottom, nice crunch on the outside, and then super, super pillowy inside. Yeah, this is gonna be my new go-to dinner roll, like Thanksgiving dinner roll recipe. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope you enjoyed this type of video. If you like this kind of cooking content and want to see more of me, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It tells YouTube that this is the kind of stuff you want to be watching. If you've made it to the end, congratulations. I want to tell you one of my favorite videos I produced in the last couple months. It's the Din Tai Fung wonton video. It was so much fun to make and the results were just insane. We've had them in our freezer and just been eating on those for the last few months and they are so good. Probably one of the best things I've made in a long time. Go ahead and check that one out. Thank you so much again for watching. Cheers.